Hi, my name is Jade, and this is my Mimi. And I'm interviewing her on her Parkinson's diagnosis. Tell me about your original diagnosis and how you found out you had Parkinson's.
My first symptoms were my hand would just tremor, and it's only this right hand. And I was going to a meeting for work, and I noticed it was getting a little worse. So I went to the doctor, and they asked me to if it was a resting tremor or a tremor when I'm moving, and I really didn't know the difference. So a resting tremor is when you have your hand still, and a moving tremor is when you're moving and you're trying to do something, you can't make your hand be still. That would be called an essential tremor. But a resting tremor most of the time is Parkinson's. And my doctor said it's probably Parkinson's because we determined it was resting. And he said there's not a lot you can do for it because, you just take medicine and not to worry about it. Well, I decided to go see a movement disorder specialist, and that's when we ran some tests, and she determined it was Parkinson's.
So what kind of tests did they run?
Well, it's interesting because there's not a specific test that will diagnose Parkinson's. So there were a couple of things that they did. One was called a DAT scan, and that's where they go and they can look at the way your brain produces dopamine. And the other was just an MRI, so they could just look at images of my brain. And both the DAT scan and MRI, from what they could tell, pointed to the diagnosis, although there were still at the time question marks as to officially diagnosing your Parkinson's disease. But the doctor, who was very experienced in the field, said she was about 90-95% sure that it would be Parkinson's, and at this point it was confirmed it is Parkinson's.
What medication do you take?
Well, I take carbidopa levodopa 4 times a day. I know that's a lot of words, right? Carbidopa levodopa. I take 2.5 tablets 4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the gold standard for Parkinson's disease, and it works pretty well. There's some other forms of it, but yeah.
Treatment conditions, side effects.
Okay, so what are the side effects? So the side effects are tremor, and my right hand, like I said, is the worst. And I have a little video that I'll put in here in just a minute to show you what happens when the medicine starts to wear off. The tremors come on, and you've seen them, and all you kids all go, Mimi, did you take your medicine? So it's my right hand will just start shaking, and sometimes it's my right foot as well. But okay, so it's about time to take my medicine. You can see if I'm moving my hand, it's still. But when I try to keep it still and use my mouse, just really, it affects my ability to work. And in about an hour, it will stop doing this once the medicine kicks back in. But now watch it stop. When you move your hand, it stops it, then you have to try to keep it still. It's called a resting tremor. Ugh. Makes me crazy. Yeah, that's the main symptoms. There are other symptoms, and as the disease progresses, they will get worse. So, and some cognitive issues will start to come. Depression is a very big symptom of Parkinson's because the brain is not producing dopamine, and dopamine and serotonin is like the happy things for your brain, so it doesn't quite produce that like it should. And then just sometimes just physically you have joint pains, and just because your muscles are tensing, sometimes you'll have muscle pain as well. And that's my symptoms. Other people have others. Dyskinesia is a pretty big symptom. Have you ever seen Michael J. Fox? Have you ever, know who that is?
Yeah, I know it.
Okay, well, he was diagnosed early on, and he has, I don't know if you ever watch him, he'll just jerk every so often. That's also like a side effect of the medication over a period of
does it affect like you day to day?
I have to pace myself. I can't just go and go and go, but unfortunately, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
You know that. And then I need proper rest in order to really function well each day. But yeah, day to day is just stress level. I try to keep that at a minimum because stress actually triggers it.
What age did Parkinson's affect you, and what's your current age?
So I was diagnosed around 50 years old, officially, and I am currently 62, so it's about 12 years that I've had it.
What personal factors led to the condition and any pre-existing conditions?
So Parkinson's is not technically hereditary, at least it hasn't been 100% proven that it is. But I can tell you this, some people say there's a chemical reaction that sometimes is caused for Parkinson's as a result of, and that is pesticides. So we live out on a farm, and there are planes that fly over these fields next to our house and spray pesticides, and we've lived over here for more than 30 years, and I just can't help but wonder if that is not the cause or some of the reason why this Parkinson's has come into play, but it's very hard to prove.
What stage in the condition are you in?
I'm actually in between stage 1 and 2. There are 4 stages. 4, yes. And my neurologist says I'm doing really well, considering, and mine has been pretty slow in its progression. So I'm in between stage 1 and 2 right now.
Do other people have like faster progression, or is it just like as always that rate?
A lot of times elderly people will be diagnosed later on in life, and it seems like theirs really progresses faster. The younger, at least in my experience, seem to have the symptoms, but they progress at a slower rate.
Are there any cures or future cures in the works?
I wish there were a cure, and I'm praying for a cure in my lifetime, but right now there is no cure for this disease. It's just a matter of managing it, managing the symptoms. There are some things that I can do that would help. One is it's deep brain stimulation, where they put a stimulator in your brain, and when the symptoms start to come on, then you can, the stimulator will automatically adjust to counteract the tremors. So down the road, that may be something I have to consider, but no, there's no cure at this time.
What was your response to finding out that you had Parkinson's?
I was very depressed. At first, I didn't want anyone to know, and so I just kept it to myself. I eventually called my husband later that day and told him what the doctor said, and then originally I told my initial family within a few days, and then I didn't tell anyone else for about a year. I just wanted to, I really kind of hoped it was wrong, and I was kind of hoping it would go away, but eventually I realized that I needed the support of other people, and about a year or so into it, I decided to be honest and let other people know, and it was amazing the people that just came out of the woodwork to love on me, support me, and encourage me. And at the time, there were no walks or ways to raise money for awareness to help, put funds toward a cure. And a friend of mine said, hey, if there's a walk, let me know and I'll go walk with you. Well, the only thing I could find was in New York. And so me and my family and a host of others loaded up, flew to New York, and walked in the Parkinson's walk down there and raised several $1,000s to fight the disease. So yeah, wasn't that kind of cool? So yeah, it's hard not to it's hard to tell people, but once you finally do it, it really is refreshing to see how many people love you and support you. Like you.
How does it affect your mental health and your personal relationships?
Well, Parkinson's, sometimes you kind of want to zone out, and so I have to be intentional about getting, not getting into that alone place. It can be a little depressing, and like I said, you just want quiet and just to be away because you don't want the tremors to come, and you think, let me just go into my little bubble, but that's just not how God designed us. So we have to fight it. I have to fight the disease like we do anything else in life.
What can cause the Parkinson's to flare up?
Stress causes it to flare up. And then if you don't take your medicine, the symptoms will also flare up. So, and then there are certain things that you have to do when you take your medicine, like you have to take the water with it so that it goes into the stomach, and that the stomach absorbs the medicine so that the medicine can do its job properly. But mainly the things that cause it to flare up are lack of medication treatment, and stress, or just lack of rest.
Does it affect your work?
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, what happens is, since my right hand is the hand I move the mouse with, my hand is doing pretty good right now because it's been about 2 hours into my medicine, and so it works really good about 2 hours in. About hour 3 is when it starts wearing off. When I have to move my mouse, sometimes my hand is shaking so bad that I'm like, okay, mouse, come here, that's the main reason it affects my work. And then cognitively, I have to just, try to stay sharp as I can. It is a disorder of the central nervous system, so it is, yes, definitely a neurological disease.
Maybe you have a little story you can share, like.
Okay, I have to tell a story about when we went to New York. So because my hand tremors, and it doesn't look like I have other issues, my hand will just shake. And we went to Chinatown in New York, and that's where you can go buy sometimes brand name things that are not really brand name. And this lady came up to me and she said, "Do you want Michael Kors? Let me show you. And I said, okay. And she put the bracelet on my hand. Well, my hand was just shaking. And she grabbed my hand and she goes, "Oh no, it's okay. You don't have to be worried. It's okay." So I didn't know what to say. I'm like, yeah, I have Parkinson's, but she thought I was just scared. So a lot of times people think because my hand is shaking, I'm scared or nervous. Well, it is just what it is. And you can see the medicine slowly starting to wear off now. And there it goes. It just kind of does its own little thing. You can see it on the camera or not. You really can't see it too well. But it just kind of shakes on the inside, which is part of what makes the muscles really tense. But watch this. When I start moving, it stops. When I'm still, it comes back. It's the craziest thing. So just do this slowly.
Yeah.
But just to hold the mouse, you have to hold it still, right? And then you just kind of, but then when you hold it still, that's crazy.
So I just interviewed my Mimi, and she means a lot to me, and because she's been there for me during a lot of hard times in my life, and still probably gonna have more, and she's gonna be there for me, and she's really reliable, and I love her so much. So I'm glad she said yes to letting me interview her.